How excited are you?
I'm incredibly excited. I've moved slightly of the picture. I'm incredibly excited by this because they're going to release. They're releasing the anthology book on the 14th of October, and then they're going to be releasing the CDs and the vinyl on the 21st of November, and then on the 26th of November, Disney Plus is going to stream the new anthology, and there was 8 original parts, and now there's going to be 9 because there's I hope, a sort of bean feast, at least an hour of extra material from 1995, starring Paul, George, and Ringo that we haven't seen before. So really, really excited about that.
So, a new fourth anthology compilation. How will it differ, do you think, from what's gone before?
Well, what's going to happen is that the fourth anthology, in terms of music, they've used some takes they haven't used before. They've got George Martin's son, Giles Martin, to work on the project. So he will tweak it a bit and add a little bit, sprinkle a little bit of fairy dust onto it. And even more sort of magic and fairy dust will be sprinkled on the actual TV program, because Peter Jackson, who did the fabulous job with Get Back, is gonna work on the fourth anthology. So we're going to get a really we're going to get a fabulous piece, I think. If Peter Jackson's track record's anything to go by, it's going to be wonderful.
So there's no exact track listing. That hasn't been revealed, has it? So do we actually know if there's anything that's unheard?
Um, there's the tracks. The tracks as they are haven't been heard. They're outtakes of quite famous Beatles tracks that haven't been heard before, and they're going to be remixed and re-released in that form. So there's going to be material that we haven't heard before, which again just adds to the excitement.
And what do you think? What do you put down to the enduring popularity of the Beatles? Not released anything in donkey's years and don't exist as they were. But why do you think people are still so fascinated by anything the Beatles have done?
But Gillian, it's just it's such a fascinating question. I spent 300 pages writing about this in the Beatles and fandom. I think first of all, their music was folk music, which means people's music. So it was very, very popular. And even if they got pretentious and wrote about politics or they wrote about their strange chemical adventures, it didn't really matter because their songs were always couched in standardized 3 minutes. Records that were really highly accessible to people. So that's one of the reasons. I think their music will go on for 300 or 400 years because it's accessible, because it's people's music, because it's folk music. Also, there's the sort of the personal stories of the four Beatles and their lives are very important as well. But there's a grand narrative beyond the Beatles, which makes them really important. I mean, the Beatles came along when there was a consumer boom in the 1950s. They were having access, I suppose, nascent globalization. They were having access to music from all over the world. 3 of the Beatles, John, Paul, and George, were scholarship kids who went to top grammar schools, so they had very good educations, including, as well as being musical, they would have been taught the Romantic Poets on their GCSE exams. Also, they were a boomer generation that were better educated, lived longer. I mean, you got the NHS with which came in Bevan, brought in 1948, and the Beatles were healthy. They were ready to go. Basically, the grand narratives of history were in place for them. Also, the UK had been in the national grid since 1933 as well, so electricity wasn't everybody's houses. Also, satellite links. They did the first satellite link in 1967. Also, I would say that they're part of the. They very quickly became part of the national narrative in the UK. I mean, just go to Liverpool now; it's like Beatles Disneyland. There's Abbey Road. If you go up to the zebra crossing, it's on a 24/7 live stream. People are there. If you go to
The tourists are there trying to take that iconic photo every single day. Richard, we must leave it there. There's so much more to be said, but we've run out of time. Thank you very much for sharing your expertise with us. Thank you.
Thanks very much.